7. Jos 21. 41 Levi accompanied Jacob into Egypt and died there at 137 years of age. X1. 1, 2. 6. 16. See Levites. 2. An ancestor of Jesus Christ, who is referred to as the son of Simeon in the genealogy of Jesus recorded by Luke. He is listed in the line between David and Zerubbabel. Luke 3. 27-31. 3. The son of Melchi, who is the second person preceding Holy Mary's father in Luke's genealogy of Jesus. Luke 3. 23, 24. 4. A tax collector Mr. 2. 14. Luke 5. 27, 29 who became an apostle of Jesus Christ and was otherwise known as Matthew. Mount 9. 9. 10. 2-4. See Matthew. Leviathan Heb. Lu _ya_. This Hebrew word occurs 6 times in the Bible. It is believed to come from a root word meaning wreath. Hence the name indicates something that is wreathed, or gathered into folds. The word is transliterated in most Bible translations. Since, with the exception of Job 3. 8, that references mention water in connection with it, Leviathan appears to signify some form of aquatic creature of great proportions and strength, although not necessarily of one specific kind. Psalm 104. 25, 26 describes it as cavorting in the sea where ships travel, and for this reason many suggest that the term here applies to some type of whale. Though whales are rare in the Mediterranean, they are not unknown there, and parts of 2 whale skeletons can be found in a museum at Beirut in Lebanon. An American translation here says crocodile instead of textoi acute muritra longo, Levites 241 the Nile canals. Also as 32. 2. Isaiah 27. 1 apparently employs Leviathan Elixex, the dragon as a symbol of an empire, an organization that is international in scope and that is dominated by one who himself is referred to as serpent and dragon. Re 12. 9 the prophecy is one of restoration for Israel, and therefore Jehovah's turning attention to Leviathan must include Babylon. However, verses 12 and 13 consider Assyria and Egypt as well. So, Leviathan here evidently refers to an international organization or empire that is in opposition to Jehovah and his worshippers. Levirate marriage. See brother-in-law marriage. Levite cities. The Levites were given no territorial allotment, Jehovah being their inheritance. New 18. 20. 18. 1, 2 But God directed that the other tribes of Israel give them a total of 48 cities and surrounding pasture grounds. New 35. 1-8 Such cities were ultimately assigned to the Levites. Jos 21. 1-8, and 13 of them were priestly cities. Jos 21. 19. See priests' cities. Of the 48 cities, 6 were assigned as cities of refuge for unintentional manslayers. Jos 20. 7-9. See cities of refuge. The scattering of the Levites among the other tribes of Israel was in fulfillment of Jacob's deathbed prophecy. Ge 49. 5-7. The Levites had the right to repurchase at any time houses they sold within their cities, or these were restored to them during the Jubilee year. But the pasture lands adjacent to their cities were never to be sold. La 25. 32-34. See Levites. Levites of belonging to Levi. Descendants of Levi, third son of Jacob by Leah. Ge 29. 32-34 At times the term applies to the whole tribe, but usually it excludes the priestly family of Aaron. Jos 14. 3, 4. 21. 1-3. Thus the expression priests and Levites is common. 1 Chi 8. 4. 1 Ch 23. 2. As 1. 5. Jo 1. 19 Priestly duties were confined to the male members of Aaron's family, with the Levites, the rest of the tribe, acting as their assistants. New 3. 3, 6-10 This arrangement began with the setting up of the tabernacle, as before this no particular family or tribe was assigned to offer the sacrifices. Acts 24. 5. Taken as a ransom for firstborn. The Levites were chosen by Jehovah in place of all the firstborn of the other tribes. Acts 13. 1, 2, 11-16. New 3. 41 counting from a month old upward, there were 22,000 Levite males who could be exchanged for the same number of firstborn males of the other tribes. The census taken in the wilderness of Sinai revealed that there were 22,273 firstborn sons in the other tribes. Therefore, God required that a ransom price of 5 shekels $11 be given to Aaron and his sons for each of the 273 firstborn in excess of Levites. New 3. 39, 43, 46-51. Duties. The Levites were made up of 3 families, from Levi's sons Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. Ge 46. 11. 1 Ch 6. 1, 16 Each of these families was assigned a place near the tabernacle in the wilderness. The Kohathite family of Aaron camped in front of the tabernacle to the east. The other Kohathites camped on the south side, the Gershonites on the west, and the Merarites on the north. New 3. 23, 29, 35, 38 Setting up, dismantling, and carrying the tabernacle was the work of the Levites. When it was time to move, Aaron and his sons took down the curtain dividing the holy from the most holy and covered the ark of the testimony, the altars, and other sacred furniture and utensils. The Kohathites then carried these things. The Gershonites transported the tent cloths, coverings, screens, courtyard hangings, and tent cords, evidently the cords of the tabernacle itself, and the Merarites took care of the panel frames, pillars, socket pedestals, tent pins and cords of the courtyard surrounding the tabernacle. New 1. 50, 51. 3. 25, 26, 30, 31, 36, 37. 4. 4-33. 7. 5-9. The work of the Levites was highly organized under David, who appointed supervisors, officers, judges, gatekeepers, and treasurers. O textoi acute miritra longo. Leviticus 242. Maintenance. Maintenance of the Levites was mainly by tithes from the other tribes, a tenth of everything produced from the ground and the cattle being given them. The Levites, in turn, passed on a tenth of this to the priests. New 18. 25-29. 2 Ch 31. 4-8. NE 10. 38, 39 Also, though the Levites were exempt from military service, they, along with the priests, shared some of the spoils of battle. New 1. 45-49. 31. 25-31. See tithe. The Levites received no territorial allotment in Canaan, Jehovah being their share. New 18. 20 However, other tribes of Israel gave them a total of 48 cities scattered throughout the promised land. New 35. 1-8. Provided supporters of true worship. The Levites supplied some notable examples of enthusiasm for true worship. This was evident in the golden calf incident and again when Levites moved out of Jeroboam's territory following the split in the kingdom. Acts 32. 26. 2 Ch 11. 13, 14 They were also zealous in their support of kings Jehoshaphat, Hezekiah, and Josiah as well as of governors Zerubbabel and Nehemiah and the priest scribe Ezra in their efforts to restore true worship in Israel. 2 Ch 17. 7-9. 29. 12-17. 30. 21, 22. 34. 12, 13. Es 10. 15. Ne 9. 4, 5, 38. As a tribe, however, they did not support the Son of God in his work of restoration, although some individual Levites became Christians. Act 4. 36, 37 Many of the Levite priests became obedient to the faith. Act 6. 7 With the destruction of Jerusalem and its temple in 70 CE the family records of the Levites were lost or destroyed, bringing the Levitical system to an end. But, a tribe of Levi constitutes part of spiritual Israel. Re 7. 4:7. The name of the tribe is also the basis for the name of the Bible book Leviticus. This book deals extensively with the Levites and their duties. Leviticus, the third book of the Pentateuch, containing laws from God on sacrifices, purity, and other matters connected with Jehovah's worship. The Levitical priesthood, carrying out its instructions, rendered sacred service in a typical representation and a shadow of the heavenly things. Hajj 8. 3-5. 10. 1. Period covered. Not more than a month is covered by the events given in the book. Most of Leviticus is devoted to listing Jehovah's ordinances rather than recounting various happenings over an extended period of time. The tabernacle's erection on the first day of the first month in the second year of Israel's departure from Egypt is mentioned in the final chapter of Exodus, the book preceding Leviticus. X 40. 17. Then, the book of Numbers immediately following the Leviticus account in its first verses 1:3 begins with God's command to take a census, stated to Moses on the first day of the second month in the second year of their coming out of the land of Egypt. When and where written. The logical time for the writing of the book would be 1512 BCE at Sinai in the wilderness. Testifying that Leviticus was indeed written in the wilderness are its references that reflect camp life. Before 21. 10. 4, 5. 14. 8. 17. 1-5. Writer. All the foregoing evidence likewise helps to identify the writer as Moses. He received the information from Jehovah 26. 46, and the book's closing words are? These are the commandments that Jehovah gave Moses as commands to the sons of Israel in Mount Sinai. 27. 34. Besides, Leviticus is a part of the Pentateuch, the writer of which is generally acknowledged to be Moses. Not only does the opening and of Leviticus indicate its connection with Exodus, and therefore with the rest of the Pentateuch, but the way in which Jesus Christ and the writers of the Christian scriptures refer to it shows that they knew it to be the writing of Moses and an unquestionable part of the Pentateuch. For example, see Christ's reference to Leviticus 14. 1-32 Mount 8. 2-4, Luke's reference to Leviticus 12. 2-4, 8 Luke 2. 22-24, and Paul's paraphrasing O textoi acute miritra longo, Leviticus 243 through the sanitary and dietary laws, as well as the regulations on sexual morality, they were provided with safeguards against disease and depravity. The chaps 11-15, 18 especially, however, did these laws benefit them spiritually, because they enabled them to get acquainted with Jehovah's holy and righteous ways and they helped them to conform to his ways. 11. 44 Furthermore, the regulations set out in this portion of the Bible, as part of the law, served as a tutor leading believing ones to Jesus Christ, God's great high priest and the one foreshadowed by the countless sacrifices offered in accord with the law. 3. 19, 24. Hajj 7. 26-28. 9. 11-14. 10. 1-10. The book of Leviticus continues to be of great value to all today who desire to serve Jehovah acceptably. A study of the fulfillment of its various features in connection with Jesus Christ, the ransom sacrifice, and the Christian congregation is indeed faith-strengthening. While it is true that Christians are not under the law covenant Hajj 7. 11, 12, 19. 8. 13. 10. 1. The regulations set out in the book of Leviticus give them insight into God's viewpoint on matters. The book is, therefore, not a mere accounting of dry, inapplicable details, but a live source of information. By getting a knowledge of how God views various matters, some of which are not specifically covered in the Christian God's laws, especially concerning the service of the priests in Israel, with emphases, for the benefit of the nation as a whole, on the seriousness of sin and the importance of being holy, because Jehovah is holy written by Moses in 1512 BCE, while Israel was camped at Mount Sinai. Aaronic priesthood is installed and begins to function. Moses carries out the 7-day installation procedure. 8. 1-36 On the eighth day, the priesthood begins to function. Jehovah manifests his approval by displaying his glory and consuming the offering on the altar. 1-24 Jehovah strikes down Nadab and Abihu for offering illegitimate fire. Subsequently, the use of alcoholic drinks, when one is serving at the sanctuary, is forbidden. 1-11 Requirements are outlined for those who will serve as priests. Regulations are laid down about eating what is holy. 1. 22. 16 Use of sacrifices in maintaining an approved relationship with God. Laws are given regarding animals acceptable as burnt offerings and how they should be prepared for presentation. 1-17. 6. 8-13. 7. 8 kinds of grain offerings are stipulated as well as how they are to be presented to Jehovah. 1-16. 6. 14-18. 7. 9, 10 Procedure is laid down for handling communion sacrifices. The eating of blood and fat is forbidden. 1-17. 7. 11-36 Animals are specified for sin offering in the case of a priest, the assembly of Israel, a chieftain, or one of the people. Procedure for handling this offering is outlined for 1-35. 6. 24-30 Laws are given on situations requiring guilt offerings. 5. 1. 6. 7. 7. 1-7 Instructions are handed down regarding the offering to be made on the day of the priest's being anointed. 6. 19-23 All offerings must be sound. Defects making an animal unfit for sacrifice are listed. 22. 17-33 Atonement Day procedures are outlined involving the sacrifice of a bull and 2 goats. 1 goat for Jehovah and the other for Azazel. 16. 2-34 Detailed regulations to safeguard against uncleanness and to maintain holiness. Certain animals are acceptable as clean for food and others are prohibited as unclean. Uncleanness results from contact with dead bodies. 11. 1-47 A woman should be purified from her uncleanness after giving birth. 12. 1-8 Procedures for handling cases of leprosy are detailed. 13. 1. 14. 57 Uncleanness results from sexual discharges, and purification is required. 15. 1-33 Holiness must be maintained by respecting sanctity of blood and by shunning otextoi acute muritra longo. Liberty 244 Greek Scriptures, the Christian can be helped to avoid what displeases God and to do what pleases Him. Liberty. See freedom. Jubilee. Libna from the root meaning white. Or, possibly, storex tree. 1. An Israelite wilderness encampment. Its location is unknown. New 33. 20:21. 2. A royal Canaanite city taken by Joshua before the conquest of Lachish. Jos 10. 29-32, 39. 12. 15 Libnah was one of the cities in the territory of Judah given to the sons of Aaron. Jos 15. 21, 42. 21. 13. 1ch6. 57 centuries later King Josiah's father-in-law lived there. 2 Chi 23. 31. 24. 18. Ja 52. 1. At the time of the Edomite revolt in the 10th century BCE Libnah also rebelled against Judean King Jehoram. 2 Chi 8. 22. 2ch 21. 10 In 732 BCE Assyrian King Sennacherib's army moved from Lachish to Libnah. He had sent a military detachment from Lachish to threaten Jerusalem. While at Libnah, the Assyrians received reports that Tyhaker the king of Ethiopia intended to fight them. Therefore, Sennacherib, to encourage Jerusalem's surrender, sent messengers a second time with intimidating letters to Hezekiah the king of Judah. Subsequently Jehovah's angel slew 185,000 of the Assyrian host, apparently still encamped near Libnah. 2 Chi 19. 8-35. Issa 37. 8-36. Tel Es Safi has been suggested as a possible identification of ancient Libnah. However, Since the weight of evidence points to identifying Tel as Safi with Gath, contemporary scholars tend to identify Libna with Tel born at Tel Burina, about 8 km 5 mi of Lachish. Libni Libni from a root meaning white. 1. A grandson of Levi and the son of Gershon Gershom. X6. 17. 1 ch 6. 17 He was the founder of a Levitical family. New 3. 18, 21. 1 ch 6. 19, 20 and was evidently also called Laden. 1 ch 23. 6, 7. 26. 21. 2. Elvite who descended from Merari through Mali. 1 ch 6. 29. Libnites of belonging to Libni. A family of Levites who descended from Gershon through his son Libni. New 3. 21. 26. 58. Libya Libya. Libyans Libya. Ancient Libya occupied an area of northern Africa of Egypt. Its inhabitants are generally thought to have been designated by the Hebrew term Luvim. 2 ch 12. 3. Libyans, LXX, NW, RSFlu Vim is a variant of Vim Lhabim. This may indicate that at least some of the Libyans descended from Ham through Mizraim. GE 10. 13 The traditional Jewish view found in the writings of Josephus Jewish Antiquities, I, 130-132 6, 2 makes the Libyans descendants of Ham through Put. GE 10. 6 Also, the Greek Septuagint and the Latin Vulgate read Libyans in Jeremiah 46. 9, Ezekiel 27. 10, and 38. 5 Where the Hebrew text says Put. It is possible, of course, that descendants of both Put and Mizraim settled in the geographic region of northern Africa that came to be called Libya. This would mean that the designation Libyans is more comprehensive than the Hebrew term Luvim. Egypt's king Shishak, regarded as the founder of the Libyan dynasty, captured numerous cities when he invaded Judah in the 5th year of King Hobom 993 BCE. His powerful force of chariots and horsemen included Libyans. Although Jerusalem itself was spared, Shishak stripped the city of its treasures. 1 Kai 14. 25, 26. 2 ch 12. 2-9 About 26 years later 967 BCE the Libyans were represented among the troops of Zerah the Ethiopian, which penetrated Judah but suffered humiliating defeat. 2 ch 14. 9-13. 16. 8 In the 7th century BCE the assistance of the Libyans and others was seemingly of no avail in saving the Egyptian city of No-Amen from calamity at the hands of the Assyrians. Na 3. 7-10 It was foretold that the Libyans and Ethiopians would be at the steps of the king of the north, implying that these former supporters of Egypt would come under his control. Da 11. 43. In the year 33 CE among the Jews and proselytes at Jerusalem for the festival of Pentecost were persons o textoi acute miritra longo, life 245 something worthless, vain, valueless. PS 12. 2. De 5. 20. PS 60. 11. 89. 47. Z 10. 2 The Hebrew verb committal. Deceive evidently has the basic meaning prove disappointing. The 19. 11. Ho 9. 2 The Greek term certus and related words have to do with lying and falsehood. The father, or originator, of lying is Satan the devil. Jo 8. 44 His lie conveyed by means of a serpent to the first woman Eve ultimately brought death to her and to her husband Adam. GE 3. 1-5, 16-19 That first lie was rooted in selfishness and wrong desire. It was designed to divert the love and obedience of the first human pair to the liar, who had presented himself as an angel of light, a benefactor. Compare to Co 11. 14. All other malicious lies uttered since that time have likewise been a reflection of selfishness and wrong desire. People have told lies to escape deserved punishment, to profit at the expense of others, and to gain or maintain certain advantages, material rewards, or the praise of man. Especially serious have been the religious lies, as they have endangered the future life of persons deceived by them. Said Jesus Christ. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Because you traverse sea and dry land to make one proselyte, and when he becomes one you make him a subject for Gehenna twice as much so as yourselves. Mount 23. 15. The exchange of God's truth for the lie, the falsehood of idolatry, can cause a person to become a practicer of what is degrading and vile. Row 1. 24-32. The case of the religious leaders of Judaism in the time of Jesus' earthly ministry shows what can happen when one abandons the truth. They schemed to have Jesus put to death. Then, when he was resurrected, they bribed the soldiers who had guarded the tomb so they would conceal the truth and spread a lie about the disappearance of Jesus' body. Mount 12. 14. 27. 1, 2, 62-65. 28. 11-15. Mr. 14. 1. Lu 20. 19. Jehovah God cannot lie. New 23. 19. Hope 6. 13-18, and he hates a false tongue. PR 6. 16-19 His law to the Israelites required compensation for injuries resulting from deception or malicious lying. PR 6. 2-7. 19. 11, 12 And a person presenting false testimony was to receive the punishment that he desired to inflict upon another by means of his lies. 19. 15-21 God's view of malicious lying, as reflected in the law, has not changed. Those desiring to gain his approval cannot engage in the practice of lying. PS 5. 6. PR 20. 19. Col 3. 9, 10. 1T3. 11. Re 21. 8, 27. 22. 15 They cannot be living a lie, claiming to love God while hating their brother. 1 Joe 4. 20, 21 For playing false to the Holy Spirit by lying, Ananias and his wife lost their lives. Act 5. 1-11. However, persons who are momentarily overreached in telling a lie do not automatically become guilty of an unforgivable sin. The case of Peter, in denying Jesus 3 times, illustrates that if a person is truly repentant, God will forgive him. Mount 26. 69-75. While malicious lying is definitely condemned in the Bible, this does not mean that a person is under obligation to divulge truthful information to people who are not entitled to it. Jesus Christ counseled, "Do not give what is holy to dogs, neither throw your pearls before swine, that they may never trample them under their feet and turn around and rip you open." Mount 7. 6 That is why Jesus on certain occasions refrained from giving full information or direct answers to certain questions, when doing so could have brought unnecessary harm. Mount 15. 1-6. 21. 23-27. Joe 7. 3-10 Evidently the course of Abraham, Isaac, Rahab, and Elisha in misdirecting or in withholding full facts from non-worshippers of Jehovah must be viewed in the same light. GE 12. 10-19. Chap 20. 26. 1-10. Joes 2. 1-6. Joes 2. 25. 2 Chi 6. 11-23. Jehovah God allows an operation of error to go to persons who prefer falsehood that they may get to believing the lie rather than the good news about Jesus Christ. O texto e acute miritra longo, Life 246, 66. 9. PR 3. 22. Vegetation has life, the life principle operating in it, but not life as a soul. Life in the fullest sense, as applied to intelligent persons, is perfect existence with the right to it. Jehovah God the source. Life has always existed, because Jehovah God is the living God, the fountain of life, and he has no beginning or end of existence. J 10. 10. Dar 6. 20, 26. Joe 6. 57. 2 Co 3. 3. 6. 16. 1 Th 1. 9. 1 T 1. 17. PS 36. 9. Just 17. 13. The first of his creations was given life, namely, his only begotten Son, the Word. Job 1. 1-3. Col 1. 15. Through this Son, other living angelic sons of God were created. Job 38. 4-7. Col 1. 16, 17. Later, the physical universe was brought into existence. Ge 1. 1, 2, and on the third of Earth's creative days the first forms of physical life. Grass, vegetation, and fruit trees. On the fifth day, living earthly souls, sea animals, and winged flying creatures were created, and on the sixth day, land animals and, finally, man. Ge 1. 11-13, 20-23, 24-31. Acts 17. 25. See creation. Day. Consequently, life on Earth did not have to wait for some chance combination of chemicals to occur under certain exact conditions. Such a thing has never yet been observed and, in fact, is impossible. Life on Earth came to be as the result of a direct command of Jehovah God, the source of life, and by the direct action of his Son in carrying out that command. Only life begets life. The Bible account tells us in each instance that the thing created brought forth offspring in its likeness, or, according to its kind. Ge 1. 12, 21, 25. 5. 3 scientists have found that there is indeed discontinuity between the different kinds, and, except for the question of origin, this has been the chief obstacle to the theory of evolution. See kind. Life force and breath. In earthly creatures, or souls, there is both the active life force, or spirit that animates them, and the breath that sustains that life force. Both spirit life force and breath are provisions from God, and he can destroy life by taking either away. PS 104. 29. Isra 42. 5. At the time of the flood, animals and humans were drowned. Their breath was cut off and the force of life was extinguished. It died out. Everything in which the breath of the force of life was active, literally, in which the breath of the active force spirit of life was in its nostrils, namely, all that were on the dry ground, died. Ge 7. 22. Compare Robert Young's translation. See spirit. Organism. All things having life, either spiritual or fleshly, have an organism, or body. Life itself is impersonal, incorporeal, being merely the life principle. In discussing the kind of body with which resurrected persons will come back, the Apostle Paul explains that those created for different environments have different bodies. As for those having life on earth, he says, not all flesh is the same flesh, but there is one of mankind, and there is another flesh of cattle, and another flesh of birds, and another of fish. He says also that there are heavenly bodies, and earthly bodies. But the glory of the heavenly bodies is one sort, and that of the earthly bodies is a different sort. 1 Co 15. 39, 40. Regarding the difference in the flesh of various earthly bodies, the 1942 edition of the Encyclopaedia Britannica Volume 14, p. 42 says, another feature is the chemical individuality everywhere manifest, for each distinct type of organism seems to have some distinctive protein of its own, and some characteristic rate or rhythm of metabolism. Thus, under the general quality of persistence amid unceasing metabolism, there is a triad of facts. 1. The building up that compensates for the breaking down of proteins. 2. The occurrence of these proteins in the colloidal state. And 3. Their specificity from type to type. Italics hours. Transmission of life force. The life force in creatures, being started into activity o textui acute miritra longo. Life 247. Death. By the way that some authorities attempt to categorize the various aspects of the process of death. Clinical death, the cessation of the functions of the respiratory and the circulatory organs. Brain death, total and irreversible stopping of brain function. Somatic death, the gradual and eventually complete disappearance of vital functions from all organs and tissues of the body. So even after breathing, heartbeat, and brain function have ceased, the life force lingers for a time in the body's tissues. Aging and death. All forms of vegetable life, as well as animal life, are transitory. A long-standing question among scientists has been, why does man grow old and die? Some scientists propose that there is a genetically determined lifespan for each cell. For support they point to experiments in which cells cultured in an artificial environment were found to stop dividing after about 50 divisions. Other scientists, however, contend that such experiments do not provide insight into why whole organisms age. Various other explanations are offered, including the theory that the brain releases hormones that play a large part in aging and subsequent death. That a person must be cautious about accepting one theory over another is suggested by the comments of Roy L. Walford, MD, who said, "It's not a cause for alarm or even surprise that Hayflick's paradigm, the theory that aging is built into the cell's genetics, may prove ultimately false, or be replaced by better, but ultimately equally false paradigm. Everything is true for its own time." Maximum Lifespan, 1983, p. 75. In considering the findings and conclusions of scientists, it should be noted that most do not credit life to a creator. Through their own efforts, they hope to discover the secret of aging and death so as to extend human life indefinitely. They overlook the fact that the Creator himself decreed the death sentence for the first human pair, implementing that sentence in a way that man does not fully understand. Similarly, he holds forth the prize of everlasting life to those who exercise faith in his Son. GE 2. 16, 17. 3. 16-19. Joe 3. 16. Adam lost life for himself and offspring. When Adam was created, God placed in the Garden of Eden the tree of life. GE 2. 9. This tree evidently had no intrinsic life-giving qualities in its fruit, but it represented God's guarantee of life to time indefinite to the one whom God would allow to eat of its fruit. Since the tree was put there by God for some purpose, undoubtedly Adam would have been permitted to eat this fruit after proving faithful to a point that God considered satisfactory and sufficient. When Adam transgressed, he was prevented from having opportunity to eat from the tree, Jehovah saying, "Now in order that he may not put his hand out and actually take fruit also from the tree of life and eat and live to time indefinite." Then Jehovah followed his words with action. He would not allow one unworthy of life to live in the garden made for righteous persons and to eat of the tree of life. GE 3. 22, 23. Adam, who had enjoyed perfect life contingent on obedience to Jehovah, GE 2. 17. 32. 4, now experienced in himself the workings of sin and its fruitage, death. His life's vigor was strong, nevertheless. Even in his sad situation, cut off from God and true spirituality, he lived 930 years before death overtook him. In the meantime he was able to pass on, not fullness of life, but a measure of life to his posterity, many of whom lived from 700 to 900 years. GE 5. 3-32. But the process that took place with Adam is described by Jesus' half-brother James. Each one is tried by being drawn out and enticed by his own desire. Then the desire, when it has become fertile, gives birth to sin. In turn, sin, when it has been accomplished, brings forth death. Ches 1. 14, 15. What man needs for life. Most scientific investigators not only overlook O text to acute miritra longo, life 248 power. Compare Col 3. 10. He had the ability to understand why he existed in his Creator's purpose toward him. Hence he, unlike the animals, was given the capacity for spirituality. He could appreciate and worship his Creator. This capacity created a need in Adam. He needed more than literal food. He had to have spiritual sustenance. His spirituality had to be exercised for his mental and physical welfare. Consequently, apart from Jehovah God and his spiritual provisions, there can be no indefinite continuance of life. As to living forever, Jesus said, "This means everlasting life, their taking in knowledge of you, the only true God, and of the one whom you sent forth, Jesus Christ." Job 17. 3. Regeneration. With a view to restoring to mankind perfection of organism and the prospect of eternal life, Jehovah has provided the truth, the word of life. Job 17. 17. php 2. 16. Following the truth will lead one to a knowledge of God's provision of Jesus Christ, who gave himself a ransom in exchange for many. Mount 20. 28. Only through this means can man be restored to full spirituality as well as to physical wholeness. Act 4. 12. 1 Co 1. 30. 15. 23-26. 2 Co 5. 21. See ransom. Through Jesus Christ, then, regeneration to life comes. He is called the last Adam. A life-giving spirit. 1 Co 15. 45. Prophecy designates him as Eternal Father is 9. 6. And as the one who poured out his soul to the very death, whose soul is set as a guilt offering. He, as such Father, is able to regenerate mankind, thus giving life to those who exercise faith in the offering of his soul and are obedient. Isra 53. 10-12. Hope of men of ancient times. Faithful men of ancient times had the hope of life. The Apostle Paul points out this fact. He refers back in time to the offspring of Abraham before the law was given, and he speaks of himself, the Hebrew, as though he were alive then, in the sense that he was in the loins of his forefathers. He argues, I was once alive apart from law. But when the commandment arrived, sin came to life again, but I died. And the commandment which was to life, this I found to be to death. Row 7. 9, 10. Compare Heb 7. 9, 10. Men like Abel, Enoch, Noah, and Abraham had hope in God. They believed in the seed that would bruise the serpent's head, which would mean deliverance. Ge 3. 15. 22. 16-18. They looked forward to God's kingdom, the city having real foundations. They believed in a resurrection of the dead to life. Heb 11. 10, 16, 35. With the giving of the law, Jehovah stated, You must keep my statutes and my judicial decisions, which if a man will do, he must also live by means of them. Law 18. 5. Doubtless those Israelites receiving the law hailed it as offering the hope of life to them. The law was holy and righteous, and would mark as completely righteous the one who could live up to its standards fully. Row 7. 12. But, instead of giving life, the law showed all Israel, and mankind in general, to be imperfect and sinners. Furthermore, it condemned the Jews to death. 3. 19. 1-1. 8-10. Truly, as Paul says, when the commandment arrived, sin came to life again, but I died. Therefore, life could not come by the law. The apostle argues, if a law had been given that was able to give life, righteousness would actually have been by means of law. 3. 21. Now, the Jews, being condemned by the law, were not only shown to be sinners as offspring of Adam, but were also under an additional disability. For this reason, Christ died on a torture stake, as Paul says. Christ by purchase released us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse instead of us, because it is written, Accursed is every man hanged upon a stake. 3. 13. By removing this obstacle, namely, the curse brought on the Jews by their breaking of the law, Jesus Christ removed this barrier to life for the Jews, giving them opportunity for life. His ransom could thus benefit them as o textoi acute miritra longo. Life 249. Who became wicked demons will be destroyed. Mount 25. 41. U4. 33, 34. Re 20. 10, 14. See immortality. Incorruption. Earthly life without corruption. What about others of mankind who do not receive heavenly life? The Apostle John quotes Jesus as saying, For God loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten Son, in order that everyone exercising faith in him might not be destroyed but have everlasting life. Job 3. 16. In his parable of the sheep and the goats, Those of the nations separated on Jesus' right side as sheep enter into everlasting life. Mount 25. 46 Paul speaks of God's sons and joint heirs with Christ, and says that the eager expectation of the creation is waiting for the revealing of the sons of God. Then he says, the creation itself also will be set free from enslavement to corruption and have the glorious freedom of the children